Alright, so after the first tutorial, we've got this project with our little guy who's got some gravity and the ability to collide with the block. So in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to start adding some action and some interaction. So we can actually press spacebar to jump, and we'll work on some things like double jump, and we'll create some variables and some scripts. And in this one, we'll do C#. I'll also do another video for Unity script, which is like JavaScript. So if you need to download the project from the last tutorial, there's a link below. Go to GitHub. GitHub's easy to clone a project. You can just fork it and clone it, and then download the source code and check out the version for V2, which is the beginning of this project. Is what I'm looking at right now. This is tagged as V2. All right, so getting to it, here's the guy that we're going to work with. He should show up in the inspector over here. So we've got a circle collider and a rigid body and a way to render him. So right now, we're not going to need the circle collider right now, so I'm just going to collapse that. But we're going to actually create another folder to store our scripts. So we're going to create a folder. I'm going to call this scripts, and that's where we'll store our C++, our C# and our Unity scripts. So in order to start interacting with this guy, we need to be able to write some code, and we're going to add a component over here in the inspector. Add component. We go down to the bottom where it says new script, and then I'm going to call this player behavior, because this is the behaviors for our player character. And this is we're going to use C#. There's JavaScript and C#. So we're going to leave it on C#. We're going to choose create and add. So this creates our new player behavior over here under assets. And we can preview the source code over here under the inspector. We want to move this to scripts. So I'm just going to drag it over to scripts. Just kind of keep everything neat and organized. We double click on scripts. We should see our player behavior in there. And now we're going to actually edit this code, and it's going to open up in MonoDevelop, which is the source code editor that comes with Unity. And this is the boilerplate behavior script that you get in C#. We won't go into a lot of detail about this, but basically the start is what happens when you initialize the object, and update is what happens every time the frame draws. So your frame rate, this update occurs every time during your frame. So in order to get this guy to jump, we need to make a way for detecting keystrokes. So in the update function here, we're going to add a conditional, an if statement, and we're going to look for any input that is the spacebar pressed. So to get that, we go if input dot get key down. So we want to know if the key is pressed for the key code dot space. And this is going to tell us basically whenever somebody presses the space button, the space bar, we'll be able to actually do something with that. So just noticing that somebody pressed space, we'll be able to add our code here for jumping. So in order to jump, we're going to need to get something called a rigid body 2D. That's something we added to the, if we go back to our guy here, the rigid body 2D is right here under the inspector. So we added that already, and that allows him to interact with the physics engine. And in this case, in the 2D environment, what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a way for him to move up or move down, left or right. And so we're going to get the a rigid body 2D from our object with the GetComponent method. So GetComponent And we have to tell what kind of component we want. We want to get a rigid body 2D. Rigid body 2D, right here. So we're going to get this component, and then we're going to set its velocity. Velocity is an x and y coordinate or direction. So we're going to change the velocity on our object to, in this case, go up. So we want him to increase his y in a Cartesian coordinate. So we're going to set the velocity equal to a new vector 2. So it's a two-dimensional vector with an x and y coordinate. And we're going to set it to, since we're just going to go up, we don't need any x to be added, right? So the first parameter is the x. So we're not going to change x at all, but we're going to change the y. So we need to give him an amount to move. So I'm going to say 10. So we're going to make him move 10. And with a semicolon. And if we save this, our guy should be able to jump whenever we press the spacebar. So I'm going to press Command S to save. I'm just going to go back to Unity, and I'm going to try to play this. So we can see down here our player behavior script under the inspector. We have a script that says player behavior, which is the one we created. So we make sure that our guy actually can use that script. I'm going to make sure that it works by just pressing play. Boom. Whoa, poof. Okay. Oh, it's terrible, right? So what's the problem? Well, he jumped 10, but our gravity scale is 1. So let's change our gravity scale to something a little different, like say 5. So I just stopped playing. I went back to the scene, and I'm going to play again. So we're on 5. Our gravity scale is 5. Let's press jump. Okay, that's not too bad. It's not a lot. Oh, okay. See that? So every time you press space, he jumps up, which is kind of cool for a double jump, but not really. We don't want him to, keep zooming off into space like that. All right, so let's go back to our script. MonoDevelop here. And we're going to add a detector to see if the guy can jump, but we need to only jump when he's on the ground, for example. So let's say let's create a variable for this. Actually, let's create a variable for two things. We're going to create a variable for holding our jump power. So I'll just do this first and then explain it. So public int jump height, and I'm going to create another variable, private bool, which is a boolean, is a yes no kind of thing. Can jump, right? So we'll start this off. Whenever we create this guy, we're going to say can jump equals true, just for now. And then over here, we're going to change our velocity to have jump height. So the reason we do that is that we want to be able to change our jump height in the actual actor. So I'm just press Command S right now. Go back here to our actor, and you'll see jump height got added. So in the game, what we can do is we can change this to 10, and we should get the same behavior we just had. Oops, let's go back. When you're playing, if you change the parameters over here in the inspector, they don't actually record. They just kind of like change during the game. So when you stop the game playing, you'll have to actually change these things again. So I'm gonna set this to 10. Press play. All right, so we're back to 10 again. Okay. If we change this to say 20, we should get a bigger jump. Poof. Yeah. Wow, look at him go. So you can see that now we have a variable in our actor that we can actually change right here in the inspector, which is kind of convenient. So let's go back to our Unity script. We created this boolean for can jump, and what we wanted to do is we want to know when our guy can jump again, so that when we're playing the game and we press jump, we want to be able to jump when he hits the ground again, but we don't necessarily want to be able to jump every time you press space. So let's go back and control this in the script. So we're going to say if you press the space bar and can jump, then we're going to set the jump height. And what we can do right now is we can say can jump equals false. So we start the guy off, he'll initially be able to jump, and then when we press space bar, the jumping will be okay as long as we, oh, this ampersand here means and. This is and. That's how you say that you want two things. So if you're pressing the space bar and you can jump, do this. And we set can jump equal to false so that you can't jump again while you're in the air. So let's go ahead and Command S and save that. Let's run this and take a look at it. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, check that out. So he jumped. Let's try it again. We'll try to hit it twice really fast. One. Okay. So he jumps once, and then because we have that code where can jump equals false, he can't jump again. But we want him to be able to jump again. So there's a bunch of different ways of doing that. But one way that you might think about it is that we want him to be able to jump again when he hits the ground. So he jumps. We don't want him to jump. He hits the ground. We want him to be able to jump again. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a function that checks when he hits the ground. And the function is called void on collision enter 2D. And this takes a collision 2D. And this is a function that a mono behavior has. So when when your 2D object collides with another 2D object, this gets called. And we can like add some extra logic in here. So for example, when we run into something that's the ground, we want to be able to say he can jump again. So in here we might say something like if the thing we collided with, and that's the parameter that comes in, this collision 2D object comes in. The thing we collided with, get the game object for it, and ask for its tag. So we're gonna actually tag something as the ground. So we're gonna compare the tag to ground. So if we run into the ground, we're going to say can jump equals true. Okay. So when we jump, say he can't jump anymore. When he hits the ground, say he can jump. And then we should be able to press spacebar again. One thing we have to do though is we have to tag something as ground. So this object right here is what we're going to call ground. It happens to be named ground this way, but we're actually going to add a tag to it. So right below it, you see the word tag, and it says untagged. So we're going to click on that untagged, and we're going to go down and click add tag. So we're going to add the tag ground here. Okay. So now our this block object here should be tagged ground right there. Okay, so we added a new tag through add tag. We selected ground right here. So now when this guy jumps and he falls back down, this thing should be recognized as a collision with a ground object. And if it is, then he should be allowed to jump again. So let's go ahead and try that out. So he's on the ground right now. Jump, jump, jump. There we go. And if we press multiple times, it doesn't happen, but he does jump and land on the ground. Okay? So that's pretty cool. That worked out well. So what if we want to actually do a double jump, right? We love double jumps. Well, what we need to do is we need to count how many times he jumps. And when we hit the maximum number of jumps, say 2, we need to say he can't jump anymore. And when he hits the ground again, then we can say, yes, he can jump again. So we want to count how many times he jumps. If the number goes over or is equal to, say, 2, then we want to stop him from jumping. But when he hits the ground, we want to reset that count back to 0 and say he can jump again. All right? So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to create a public int. I'm actually going to create something called max jumps. So what this is going to be, I'm going to be able to put the number 2 into our object, and it will be how many times he can jump. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to create a private int num jumps. And this is going to keep track of the number of jumps. So I'm just going to put here number of jumps. It's pretty common to just put like things like num, maximum number of jumps. Okay. So when he starts off, let's just set num jumps equal to 0, just to make sure. And whenever we go in here, whenever we press the space bar and he's allowed to jump, then instead of saying can jump equals to false, we're going to say increase the number of jumps. And the way you do that is num jumps plus plus. Okay, and you can put that together or separate it. And you can actually prefix it, so you can say add a jump. So that just adds 1, that code right there. So add 1 to jumps. And instead of saying can jump, what we're going to do is we're going to say and the number of jumps is less than max jumps. So if the number of jumps is less than the maximum number of jumps, and you're pressing the space bar, then we're going to let you jump. We're going to increase the number of jumps. And we can take this out right now. So we're just going to increase the count. Now, we have to go down here and fix this so that when we hit the ground, we reset the number of jumps. So if you collide with the ground, we're just going to say num jumps equals 0. Okay, so it's going to reset it right back to 0. And we can actually get rid of this can jump now, because this is what's tracking our jumps, this num jumps. So the number of jumps has jumped is going to be our way of detecting if he can jump now. So go ahead and save that. If we go back to our character here, give him a little play. Can't jump. Why can't we jump? Well, the reason we can't jump is because we didn't set max jumps. So 0 is not less than 0. Let's say 2. Let's give him a jump. There he is. Jump, 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 jump. Yeah, nice. Now, I think we might have to tweak how high he can jump later on, or maybe tweak the gravity scale. So either change the gravity scale or his jump height, or both. So maybe we set his jump up height to 20. Let's go back. We need to stop playing. So set his jump up height to 20 here, and then maybe set his gravity scale to 10. Let's take a look at what that does. Boom. That's a big jump. Boom, 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 boom. That's really, so he's fast. He's a fast jumper right now, and he jumps a big distance. So you can tweak this. Maybe we want that to 10. Maybe we want his jump to 10. Jump, jump. Oh, he can't jump at all. That's gravity's a little heavy. Let's go back to 5 here. First gravity scale. Oops, take this off play. 5. Again, boom, boom. Looks like he might be able to get up on a block that way. And I'm not sure if he can jump up on top of 2 with that double jump. It's something we'll have to tweak as we go along. But he's all done here. Let's see, let me go back to my scene. It looks like his feet just barely touch. I'll leave that for now. I'm not going to worry about that. But another thing we can do is our code's a little confusing. So we've got this calculation right here every time we're updating. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just go ahead and create another little function to handle this. This one's just something we're writing. This isn't something that actually is part of the mono behavior, like on collision enter 2D was. That's a function that's already kind of known to the engine. This one's going to be something brand new, and we're going to call this can jump. It just kind of reads a little bit more like the way we would want to ask the question, can he jump? So we say, we just move the code in here, so what we could do is we could do something really short, like return num jumps less than max jumps. And then up here, we just change this to can jump. So if you're pressing the key down and you can jump, then we do this, increase the number of jumps, and then later on set jumps back to 0. So all this really does is kind of tell us something that's a little more clear. So if you press the spacebar and you can jump, right? You almost can read that. And then down in here, we're just saying, if the number of jumps is less than max jumps, then you can jump. So if this is true, then this will be true. If this is false, then this will be false. And that's how we determine that. So let's give that a try, make sure that works. There we go. So that's our first script. It's a little dull right now because our guy can't actually move left or right, but we'll add that in the next video. All right. So give us a like, give us a subscribe. Check out the rest of the tutorials on my blog site on gosub.com, and I'll see you next time. All right. Thanks.